Okay, so have you ever, really stopped to consider what power or influence actually means? Especially when you look at the grand sweep of human history.
Hmm.
Is it always just about, like, the biggest armies? Or drawing lines on a map? Or is there maybe something else, something far more subtle but still incredibly potent at play?
That's a great question to start with. It's definitely not always straightforward.
Welcome to the deep dive, everyone. Today we're going to unpack a really fascinating source. It's essentially a century by century journey through global influence.
Yeah, it's quite a scope.
And our mission really is to explore these two distinct, though yeah, often intertwined forms of global sway. So on one hand, you've got what we're calling general influence.
Right, the overt stuff.
Yeah,
Military power, political dominance.
exactly. And then there's this other side, maybe a quieter giant,
Well,
soft power. That's the more subtle but often really enduring cultural, economic, and intellectual reach.
the influence that lasts even after the armies go home sometimes.
Precisely. And by exploring this distinction, we hope you'll find maybe a clearer way to understand these huge historical shifts and maybe even gain a fresh perspective on today's global dynamics, without feeling totally overwhelmed by all the information out there.
It's a useful lens, definitely.
Okay, let's unpack this. So let's begin right at the foundations of power. We're talking the 1st to the 6th centuries AD.
Okay.
Now, when you think about general influence in this period, I mean, the Roman Empire just immediately comes to mind.
Absolutely, you can't avoid it.
From the 1st right through to the 4th century, it had this, well, unparalleled military, political, administrative dominance across the Mediterranean.
Total control, really, in that core region.
Yeah, this was its peak territorial expansion, the whole Pax Romana thing.
Yeah.
And even when it hit internal crises, divisions, its institutional power, that framework, it stayed incredibly formidable for a long time.
But what's so insightful about Rome, I think, is how its influence wasn't just military. That's only part of the story. Its legal systems, I mean, they became foundational for the West.
Mm.
Urban planning, the architecture, and then, of course, the spread of early Christian thought. That profoundly shaped Western philosophy, morality, culture.
Especially once it got institutionalized, yeah.
Mhm.
That soft power reach extended way beyond the legions.
Exactly. It's a blend.
That dual nature of Roman power, it's a fascinating model.
Mhm.
But Rome wasn't the only game in town, globally speaking.
Not at all.
While Rome dominated the West, if you look east, you had another kind of giant, more on the soft power side, Han Dynasty China. We're talking 1st and 2nd centuries here.
Hmm. Hugely significant.
They were, well, undisputed leaders in technological innovation. Think about paper, for instance,
Game-changing technology.
and sophisticated bureaucracy, massive economic output. It just profoundly shapes culture all across East Asia. Less about conquering legions, more about, well, innovation and systems.
There's some kind of influence, but incredibly powerful in its own right.
Then, as things start to shift and the Western Roman Empire eventually, fractures,
A chaotic period in the West.
the Eastern Roman Empire, which we now call the Byzantine Empire, it kind of emerges as this resilient phoenix. This is 5th and 6th centuries.
Right. Its sheer survival, its stability when everything else seemed to be collapsing around it, that speaks volumes about its general influence, its statecraft.
Yeah. And under Emperor Justinian I, a really pivotal figure, it actually saw this powerful resurgence. It projected significant military might, again, even reclaim some territories.
Yeah, a real pushback. But again, like Rome, its soft power was maybe just as crucial in the long run.
How so?
Well, the Byzantine Empire meticulously preserved and codified Roman law. Justinian's code is famous. It gave us these grand architectural achievements, think Hagia Sophia.
Still standing today. Amazing.
And it acted as this vital bridge, preserving and transmitting classical Greek and Roman knowledge through the so-called Dark Ages in the West.
So not all influence was centered in these massive empires, though. There's
Yeah.
another key player, right?
Definitely. You have to look at the Gupta Empire in India around the 5th century. It experienced this true golden age, particularly in science and math.
Yeah, this is where things like the concept of zero come from, right?
Yeah.
And the decimal system.
Exactly. Absolutely fundamental breakthroughs. And its cultural and intellectual influence, fueled by these advances, spread incredibly widely across Southeast Asia. It was a powerful ripple effect, driven by ideas.
Hmm.
So I think a key takeaway from this whole early period is just how varied influence can be. It's not a monolith.
Right.
You have empires like Rome, seamlessly blending both general and soft power military might, sort of underpinning a lasting cultural legacy.
Huh?
But then you have others, like the Gupta Empire, making their most enduring mark primarily through intellectual breakthroughs. Their impact resonated globally, long after their political dominance faded.
Okay, that sets the stage really well. Now let's shift gears a bit, moving into the 7th to 12th centuries. This period sees this dramatic emergence, right? The Islamic Golden Age and also China's continued rise.
It's a really dynamic era.
So focusing first on the early Islamic caliphates, say 7th to 9th centuries, a vast empire was forged incredibly quickly through military conquests.
Astonishingly fast expansion.
Yeah, stretching from Spain all the way to Persia. That's some potent general influence, clear as day. Rashidun, Umayyad caliphates,
Yeah.
then the Abbasids centralizing things.
Absolutely. But that general influence, that military success, was almost immediately complemented by this just unparalleled soft power explosion.
How did that manifest?
Well, the rapid spread of Islam itself, obviously, and the Arabic language becoming a lingua franca for scholarship and trade. But beyond that, a new, incredibly vibrant intellectual and scientific culture just bloomed.
This is the golden age we hear about.
Exactly. Baghdad, under the Abbasid Caliphate, became arguably the world's intellectual and economic hub. They weren't just translating ancient Greek, Persian, Indian knowledge, they were actively building upon it.
Making their own contributions.
Huge contributions. Profoundly influencing science, philosophy, medicine, trade. I mean, innovations in algebra, optics, medical procedures, things that still resonate today. How do you see those two forces, the military expansion and this intellectual explosion, how do they interact here?
That's the fascinating part, isn't it?
Yeah.
It feels like the expansion created this vast space, this network, where ideas could just travel and cross-pollinate like never before. The Islamic world wasn't just militarily powerful. It truly became an intellectual and technological engine for centuries.
A powerhouse of knowledge.
And almost simultaneously, you have Song Dynasty China,
Mhm.
roughly 10th to 12th centuries. They were laying the groundwork for just complete political and economic dominance in East Asia, becoming, arguably the most powerful and stable state on the planet at that time.
Precisely. Song China was the undisputed global leader in economic prosperity and technological innovation. Just incredible.
Right, this is when we get things like gunpowder.
Gunpowder, printing, the compass. Think about how those inventions changed everything globally. Their sophisticated cultural life, their bureaucratic governance, their advanced urban living, it all profoundly influenced neighboring regions. It cemented their status as this immense soft power giant in the East.
Okay, so we're entering a new phase now, the 13th to 16th centuries, a period you could call shifting sands, maybe, and also the Renaissance in Europe.
A lot going on. Big disruptions, big changes.
And the biggest disruption, arguably, in the 13th century, the Mongol Empire.
The Mongol storm, yeah. Unbelievable speed and scale.
This was just raw general influence, wasn't it? The largest contiguous land empire in history, reshaping Eurasia through sheer military conquest and political control, hard power personified.
Absolutely brutal and effective in terms of conquest. Yet what's interesting is, despite those massive invasions, the Islamic world, now fragmented into various sultanates and empires, showed this remarkable resilience.
How so, even after the Mongols?
Yeah, it maintained significant intellectual, scientific, and trade influence. It continued to act as this crucial bridge for knowledge and commerce between East and West. It's a powerful testament, really, to how enduring soft power those networks and ideas can be, even when facing immense military upheaval.
That's a really important point. The knowledge didn't just disappear.
Not at all. It adapted. It continued.
And meanwhile, China bounces back pretty quickly, right, after kicking out the Mongols.
Right. The Ming Dynasty emerges, 14th, 15th centuries.
And they rapidly reestablish this strong Chinese cultural identity, huge internal markets, immense economic output. And you see the regional dominance demonstrated by those incredible voyages of Zheng He.
Those massive treasure fleets sailing across the Indian Ocean.
Yeah, they were, for a time, clearly the world's leading economic and cultural power again.
Yeah.
Technological prowess, projecting their influence across this vast maritime network.
A resurgence of both general and soft power there.
Okay, so as we move into the 16th century, the picture shifts again. Spain emerges.
Yeah, Spain becomes a dominant global superpower.
Its huge colonial empire in the Americas, its military might, the tercios, and just the immense wealth flowing in from silver mines.
Yeah.
That looks like classic general influence on a global scale.
Textbook example, really. Funded by New World riches. But what's compelling here, and connects back to what we were saying earlier, is how military dominance doesn't always just erase established intellectual or cultural flows.
Okay.
And new forms of soft power can actually emerge from, well, unexpected places. Because at the very same time Spain is flexing its imperial muscle, the politically fragmented city-states of Italy are in the full throes of the Renaissance.
Right. Florence Venezia.
Exactly. And this is pure soft power, profoundly influencing European art, philosophy, science, humanism, setting completely new cultural standards across the entire continent that would shape European identity for centuries. Military power in Spain, cultural power blossoming in Italy.
That contrast is striking. Okay, let's transition now into the 17th to 19th centuries. This is where we really see the rise of European hegemony. And of course, the Industrial Revolution starts transforming everything.
A pivotal era for global power dynamics.
The 17th century, in many ways, feels like it belonged to France.
France certainly takes center stage in Europe.
Under Louis XIV, the Sun King, it rose to preeminence. Significant military power, major political influence on the continent.
True, but I'd argue France's soft power in this era was truly unparalleled, maybe even more impactful long-term than its military might at the time.
How so? What defined that?
Its cultural dominance was just absolute. Think about the opulent courtly life at Versailles, French fashion, architecture, the French language itself. It became the absolute standard for elites across Europe.
The language of diplomacy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It was the very epitome of cultural aspiration. It influenced everything from philosophy and art to Gardi design and cooking all across the continent. Total cultural hegemony in a way.
So, if we're tracking how influence evolves, you see France leading with culture very strongly. And then Great Britain comes along and does something different, right? It fuses military might with this groundbreaking economic and industrial engine.
Precisely. Starting in the 18th century, Britain expands its colonial empire, builds up its naval power-ruled Britannia, and begins to fundamentally reshape global economics with its early industrial lead.
The Industrial Revolution taking off.
Yeah. And by the 19th century, Britain is the undisputed global hegemon. Largest empire the world had ever seen, dominant navy controlling the seas, London as the world's financial center, enforcing this Pax Britannica. That's massive general influence.
Unquestionably.
But again, its soft power was just as impactful, arguably even more so in the long run. Britain's burgeoning industrial revolution drove just unprecedented economic and technological change globally.
The workshop of the world.
That's the phrase. Its economic model, its technological innovation spreading everywhere, its cultural exports to literature, scientific advancements, they profoundly influenced global development. You still see the echoes today in countless ways. It wasn't just a military empire. It offered or imposed a kind of societal blueprint.
Okay, so that brings us finally to modern global influence. Let's talk 20th and 21st centuries.
Right up to our time.
The 20th century clearly saw the United States ascend. I mean, emerging from two world wars as the dominant economic and military superpower, really shaping the entire post-war global order through its general influence.
No question. The American century, as it's often called. Military bases, economic aid, political alliances.
But that general influence was, well, massively amplified by this pervasive U.S. soft power, wasn't it?
Oh, hugely. Its cultural exports, Hollywood movies, rock and roll, jazz, pop music became truly global phenomena. Everyone was watching American films, listening to American music.
And technology, too.
Absolutely. Technological innovation, think computing, the internet later on, revolutionized communication, industry, everything. And its economic models, consumer culture, they profoundly influenced global consumerism, business practices, even democratic ideals in many parts of the world.
So as we stand now, here in the 21st century, the U.S. certainly, retains arguably the most comprehensive global influence across all those domains: military, economic, tech, culture.
It's still the benchmark in many ways, yes.
But we're also clearly seeing a more multipolar soft power landscape emerging, wouldn't you say?
Indeed, that's a key shift. While the U.S. continues its robust influence, particularly in technology, higher education, culture, economic innovation, you have China's rapid economic growth, its own technological advancements, its increasing cultural presence globally.
Building infrastructure, Confucius Institutes.
Right, all sorts of initiatives. It marks China as a powerful co-influencer, perhaps. And this brings up a really critical point for understanding power today. How does this concept of a co-influencer alter our understanding of soft power?
Good question. What do you mean?
Well, we're moving away from perhaps a more singular dominance like the U.S. had for a while, maybe, towards a more distributed model, influence radiating from multiple global actors simultaneously. It challenges that idea of a sole cultural or technological hegemon setting the agenda for everyone else.
So it's more complex, more contested maybe?
Exactly. More players on the soft power field.
Wow. Okay, so we've just taken this incredible journey through centuries of global influence. We've traced this dynamic interplay between that overt general influence, the armies and borders,
Yeah, the hard power.
and then the more subtle, yet often incredibly pervasive soft power, that cultural, economic, intellectual reach.
The power of attraction and ideas.
And we've seen how different nations, different empires really mastered these different forms of global sway at different times. From Rome's kind of integrated approach to the Gupta Empire's purely intellectual leadership, to Britain fusing industry and empire, the U.S. leveraging culture and tech, and now this rise of co-influencers like China.
It's a fascinating tapestry.
And hopefully understanding this historical distinction, this difference between general and soft power, can be a really useful tool for you, the listener. It allows you to maybe better interpret the nuances of what's happening right now in global affairs, the complex ways influence is wielded today. It gives you maybe a clearer lens to see beyond just the headlines.
To see the different layers of power at work.
Yeah, exactly. So, to leave you with something to think about, as we look towards the future, which of these forms of influence do you think will ultimately prove to be the most enduring, the most transformative in shaping our world?
That's the big question, isn't it?
Will it be that general military and political power? Or will it be the more subtle, maybe slower acting, cultural and technological soft power? And, perhaps more importantly, why? What's your take?